She said it very quietly. She said, "I'm going to freak thee out." I didn't say it like that. What? What's wrong with, I wasn't seeing you worried about the victims at all. You don't know that. You're assuming that. What would I have needed to do? You were only throwing insults at me. You weren't taking any kind of conversation with me. No one wants to be called a liar. Well, if you would talk to me, then maybe you could convince me that you weren't. Where's my apology? And you're not getting one. Why not? Because I don't like you. Oh, good. This is a mutual thing. Yeah, never. Sutton Stracke's story just got sad. Not from another fight, but from the hidden pain the cameras finally caught. What she revealed changed everything. You can see it in her eyes, the moment the laughter fades and the truth slips out. This isn't just another Real Housewives feud. This is something deeper, something real. Behind the glitz, the gowns, and the gossip, there's a side of Sutton most fans never knew existed. A story that explains everything about her guarded smile and emotional outbursts. In this video, we'll walk through her revelation, the fallout with her castmates, and the emotional price she's paying for living her truth on national television. Before Sutton Stracke became one of Beverly Hills' most talked about housewives, she was known for her grace, southern charm, and an elegance that seemed effortless. On camera, she always appeared polished and in control, the woman who could hold her own at any dinner party, no matter how chaotic. Fans saw her as quirky, emotional, but real. A refreshing balance in a cast full of extremes. What most people didn't see, though, was that beneath her calm exterior, Sutton was carrying a quiet pain that shaped who she is today. Born and raised in Augusta, Georgia, Sutton grew up in a traditional Southern household. She loved ballet, fashion, and dreamed of a big life beyond her small hometown. But behind the perfect manners and the pearls, her home life wasn't always easy. Her father struggled with depression and addiction, and Sutton was only in her 20s when she faced the unimaginable, losing him to suicide. It was a moment that would stay with her forever, silently influencing every part of her adult life. When she joined the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Sutton seemed like someone finally living the dream. She had wealth, style, and confidence. But the truth was, the show's spotlight forced her to confront emotions she'd buried for decades. While others saw her crying over caste conflicts, those tears came from a much deeper place. The cameras captured tension, yes, but they also caught glimpses of someone still learning how to heal. Even early in her seasons, Sutton's reactions stood out. Some fans called her too sensitive, while others admired her vulnerability, but no one really knew the full story. Not yet. Each season peeled back another layer of her personality, hinting that the real reason behind her emotional moments had nothing to do with petty drama or jealousy. It had everything to do with grief, loss, and the lifelong struggle to hold herself together in a world that rewards perfection. The cracks in Sutton's carefully built image began to show, and what started as a fun reality show appearance slowly turned into a public journey through her pain. And as the cameras kept rolling, her hidden heartbreak began to take center stage. As the new season unfolded, viewers started noticing a change in Sutton. The confidence that once defined her began to waver, replaced by moments of visible anxiety and emotional exhaustion. At first, it seemed like typical housewives drama, another heated dinner argument, another round of confessions. But this time, something felt different. Sutton wasn't just reacting to insults or misunderstandings. She was breaking down in ways that went far beyond the show's usual theatrics. During a tense moment on set, Sutton finally opened up. Her voice trembled as she shared a part of her life that she'd kept hidden from both her castmates and fans. She spoke about her father's death not just as a tragic event, but as a wound that never truly healed. The entire room fell silent. You could see the shock, the empathy, and for some, the discomfort. In that instant, the glamorous facade of Beverly Hills cracked open, revealing something raw and painfully human. It wasn't a dramatic outburst or a fight for attention. It was a moment of truth. Sutton's confession wasn't scripted or exaggerated. It was real. She explained how her father's struggles with depression shaped the way she viewed relationships and trust. How she still carried guilt, wondering if she could have done more, said something different, or seen the warning signs. It was the kind of vulnerability that reality TV rarely shows without twisting it into a storyline. As she wiped away tears, the rest of the cast looked on, some with sympathy, others unsure how to respond. The cameras lingered, catching every breath, every pause. It was uncomfortable, but it was powerful. For once, the focus wasn't on fashion or feuds. It was on the cost of carrying emotional scars while living under public scrutiny. When the episode aired, fans flooded social media with messages of support. Many said they finally understood Sutton's emotional side. Others admitted they'd misjudged her, calling her dramatic when she was really just hurting. But not everyone was kind. Some questioned her timing, accusing her of using her pain to gain sympathy. The internet, as always, was divided, half compassion, half criticism. And yet, for Sutton, that moment was freeing. She had spent years hiding behind politeness, trying to be strong. But the truth was out now. And once you let people see your scars, there's no going back. After the episode aired, everything in Sutton's world seemed to shift. What was once a safe space, her friendships within the cast, suddenly became complicated. Some of the women reached out privately, offering comfort and understanding. Others stayed distant, unsure how to handle such heavy emotions in a world built on image and drama. And just like that, Sutton's vulnerability became both her strength and her weakness. The reunion episode brought that tension to the surface. What was supposed to be a conversation about the season's events quickly turned into an emotional minefield. Sutton tried to explain how she felt misunderstood, how every emotional reaction wasn't an act, but a reflection of everything she'd been through. But instead of empathy, she met resistance. Some of her co-stars rolled their eyes. Others changed the subject. The air grew thick, and Sutton, holding back tears, realized she was standing alone again. When Andy Cohen gently asked about her father, the room fell silent once more. Sutton spoke softly, her voice shaking. She said she hadn't planned to talk about it, but it had become impossible to hide anymore. "Grief doesn't go away," she said, "you just learn how to carry it." For a brief moment, the drama stopped and the entire cast seemed to see Sutton not as a rival or a storyline, but as a woman still trying to heal from something she never fully processed. But reality TV doesn't pause for healing. The reunion wrapped, the cameras stopped rolling, and online conversations exploded. Fans debated her every word. Some defended her bravery, calling her the heart of the show. Others said she was too fragile for Beverly Hills, that she didn't fit the housewives mold. Memes were made, interviews followed, and gossip pages twisted her pain into headlines. Behind the scenes, Sutton withdrew. She limited her public appearances, skipped a few events, and spent more time with close friends and family. Her social media became quieter, fewer smiles, more reflective posts. And when she did appear in public, fans noticed a different energy in her, softer, but guarded. The same woman who once stood her ground in fiery arguments now seemed to pick her words more carefully, as if protecting herself from being misunderstood again. The fallout didn't just affect her image. It touched her relationships within the cast. Garcelle, once her closest ally, appeared to create distance. Rumors spread that their friendship was strained, that trust had been broken somehow. It wasn't one big betrayal, but a slow drift, misunderstandings, gossip, and the pressure of constant filming taking their toll. Sutton, who valued loyalty above everything, felt that loss deeply. Every comment, every interview about the show seemed to remind her that she was being watched not just as a reality star, but as a person whose pain had become public property. What started as an emotional confession had turned into an open wound the world could now poke at. And while the cameras caught her tears, they couldn't capture the full weight of what she was feeling behind closed doors. The quiet nights, the unanswered calls, the loneliness that comes from realizing your truth has been turned into entertainment. Months passed and Sutton started to rebuild herself, but not in the way fans expected. She didn't try to reinvent her image or chase sympathy. Instead, she focused on finding meaning in the mess. Away from the Bravo cameras, she began speaking more openly about mental health and the long shadows grief can cast. At charity events, she talked about loss, healing, and resilience, not for attention, but for connection. People who once only saw her as the emotional one began to see her as someone real, raw, and deeply human. But Beverly Hills doesn't easily forget. When the new season began filming, Sutton returned to the stage that had once magnified her pain. Some of the women welcomed her back with open arms, while others whispered that she was still too sensitive. It was as if the show had learned nothing from what she had shared. And yet, Sutton refused to let that define her anymore. She no longer cried to gain understanding. She stood firm, calm, and clear. Her vulnerability was no longer a weakness, it was her quiet form of strength. Fans noticed the difference immediately. The Sutton who once trembled during confrontations now spoke with controlled grace. When arguments flared, she didn't match the chaos, she met it with silence, a kind of power that made even her harshest critics pause. Clips of her calm reactions started trending, with fans calling her the voice of reason in a show built on chaos. Behind that newfound composure, though, was still a woman carrying years of private battles. Sutton's relationship with her children remained her anchor. They reminded her of what truly mattered, not fame, not reputation, but peace. She once said in an interview, "When I come home, I don't want to talk about the show. I just want to be mom." It was that balance between the spotlight and her personal life that slowly began to heal her. Yet, just as Sutton began finding her footing again, another emotional storm brewed online. A resurfaced interview clip from an earlier season began circulating, reigniting discussions about her past comments and the way she'd been portrayed. Suddenly, her name was back in the headlines, and not for the reason she wanted. The old narrative returned: Sutton can't handle pressure. Sutton overreacts. Sutton's emotional again. It was like watching her hard work unravel overnight. She addressed it quietly on Instagram, posting a short message: "You can't rewrite my story when I'm still living it." That single line reminded fans that behind every episode, there's a human being navigating real emotions, not just scripted drama. The comment section filled with support, fans sharing their own stories of loss and misunderstanding. For the first time, it felt like Sutton's pain had built a bridge instead of a wall. As the season neared its end, Sutton's storyline came full circle. She wasn't the victim or the villain anymore. She was something in between, a woman who survived public judgment and found strength in her scars. Her castmates began to see it too. During one dinner scene, when tensions rose again, it was Sutton who calmed everyone down. "We all go through things," she said softly. "We just show it differently." For a moment, the fighting stopped. That's when viewers realized the sad part of Sutton's story wasn't her pain itself, but the world's reaction to it. The way vulnerability gets punished and how honesty often comes with a price. Sutton had become the emotional mirror of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, showing that even in a world built on diamonds and designer gowns, heartbreak still cuts through the glitter. By the time the season wrapped, something had shifted, not just for Sutton, but for how fans saw her. The same audience that once mocked her breakdowns was now rallying behind her. The hashtags changed from "Sutton overreacting" to "Protect Sutton at all costs." Viewers began to see what she'd been trying to say all along, that strength doesn't always look like shouting the loudest. Sometimes it looks like surviving with grace. But behind the renewed public support, Sutton still battled quiet struggles. Close friends revealed she was taking more time off screen, focusing on her health and emotional well-being. In interviews, she spoke about the toll fame can take, how it can twist your story, how the world starts to believe the version of you that sells best. "You start to forget who you are," she said, "and that's when you know it's time to step back." Those words hit fans deeply, especially those who had followed her journey since her debut. Still, Sutton didn't fade into the background. She used her platform differently, hosting fundraisers for causes tied to mental health, even quietly supporting survivors' organizations without much press. Her compassion became her armor. The gossip may have never stopped, but Sutton wasn't playing that game anymore. She had transformed from a reality TV character into something bigger, a woman who owned her story, no matter how painful it was. Then came the Bravo reunion, and this time, Sutton wasn't crying. She was calm, collected, and unshaken. When questioned about her emotional past, she didn't flinch. "I've been through things most people wouldn't understand," she said. "But I'm still standing." Even her castmates, some of whom once clashed with her, nodded in respect. The room felt different. There was no mocking, no dismissing her feelings, just silence and, maybe for the first time, understanding. The online reaction was instant. Clips of her speech went viral. Fans wrote messages saying her words helped them through their own pain. For once, reality TV did something rare. It showed real healing, not just drama. Sutton's pain had come full circle, turning into something empowering. But Sutton's story still had its bittersweet edge. She admitted in a podcast that even though she'd found peace, the experience changed her forever. "You can't unsee how people treat you when you're hurting," she said. "But you can choose who deserves to see your heart again." That quote spread like wildfire, not just among fans of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but among anyone who had ever felt misunderstood for showing emotion. Over time, Sutton became somewhat of a symbol for resilience. The glitz and gossip of Beverly Hills no longer defined her. She learned that she didn't have to prove her worth by being the loudest or the most glamorous. Her quiet truth spoke louder than any scripted storyline. She once entered the show as the emotional one, but she walked out as the most real one of all. Her transformation didn't mean the pain disappeared, it meant she learned how to live with it. And that's what makes Sutton's story truly sad, but also incredibly human. It's the kind of sadness that comes from surviving something that once broke you and learning to smile again anyway. In the end, Sutton Stracke's story isn't just sad, it's a reminder. Behind every reality star you see crying on screen, there's a real person fighting battles the audience can't see. A person who's lost, healed, and kept going, even when it would have been easier to quit. And maybe that's the real reason Sutton's story hits so hard, because deep down, we've all been there, trying to hold ourselves together while the world watches. So when fans say Sutton's story just got sad, maybe what they really mean is that it finally got real. And that's what makes it unforgettable. Sutton's story isn't just about sadness. It's about strength, survival, and showing the world her real self. She turned pain into power and walked away with grace. If you believe Sutton deserves peace after everything she's faced, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more Real Housewives stories that go deeper than the drama.